roll it here. And checking cams. Okay, everything seems in order. iPad cam, check. iPhone cam, check. Audio, check. Microphone, check. And let's see. Can I do this real quickly? Come on. Come on.
Intro, 2, 3, 4. Verse, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, welcome back, worship teams. What's going on? How are you? Brandon Dempsey with the Worship Team Training Morning Show and Podcast. It's great to see you today. How are you? And kind of got off to a little bit of a rickety start, but man, we hope that you guys are having a great day. How are you on this fantastic Thursday, as we always like to call it as Friday Eve. I hope that your Friday Eve, your Thursday today, is going great. And we're going to jump into some music. We got some piano stuff to go through. Our topic today, the plate spinning pianist, and what does that mean? We're going to go through that in just a little bit. So how are you guys doing today? Hope that you're doing well. If you would, share this broadcast out if you're watching us by Facebook Live, also by Periscope. You're watching by Facebook Live. Please hit the share button. Share this out, please, with your friends, piano players, worship leaders, all musicians. And it's the same thing with Periscope. If you guys would share this out as well. Louise, what's going on from Periscope? We also got Treasure joining us on Periscope. Great friends coming on. Also the playback as well. You guys come in from everywhere. So thanks so much for that. And I hope that your day is going great. Man, it's a beautiful day outside here in Texas, and we're enjoying every bit of it. Hope your day is going great as well. Treasure, what's going on? We got some great friends happening right now. Please go ahead and share this broadcast out with your friends, and we are going to get going. And also, all right, and also, if you would, hey, Treasure, what's up? And if you would, guys, please go ahead and let us know if you are new to the broadcast. If this is your first time to the Worship Team Training Show, we say a big welcome and thank you. And if you would, please let us know by typing in all caps, new, and the city or country of where you're from. And if you're also joining us as family, in other words, you've been here before, then let us know about that as well. Just type in fam, F-A-M as in family. Even if you watch one playback, hey, it's all good. And we appreciate you guys being here. Listening to us by the audio podcast, you guys rock. Thanks so much following us here on iTunes and also on Spreaker. So thanks so much. You can check us out, all the episodes on iTunes. Search for Worship Team Training Podcast, and we'll come up right there. So let's go ahead and get to it. We have these reminders coming up. Step into November. Step into the spirit of Thanksgiving, filled with gratitude. If you're watching right now by Facebook Live, or if you open up another app on your device and you're at Facebook Live right now, you will see I'm typing up the link and putting it out there for our new devotional called Filled with Gratitude. And that is offered on Bible.com and soon to be offered on another great friend's website that we're going to be sharing with you in just a little bit. But for the time being, you can get Filled with Gratitude on Bible.com. It's a free download. It's our new reading devotional of the month. And so we hope that you guys enjoy it. Also, don't forget, you songwriters out there, if you are pressing to get not just those songs done, but the confidence to match it. Hey, I got a great guy for you here, renowned singer-songwriter and also former AR and director over at Integrity Music. John Chisholm is going to be with us on next Tuesday. That's November the 15th at 2 p.m. Central. All you need to do is go to worshipteamtraining.com/events, and you will see the free webinar right there just for you to sign up. So today's post is the plate spinning pianist. Now, what do I mean by that? We got a really a good response. This is actually this article is a response from last week, the last video that we did in teaching piano. I was just showing you guys a little bit more of what you can do to play less. And on that article, that was called the 6 Ways to Retrain Your Pianist, and we got a lot of good feedback. So thank you so much, you guys, for sharing that out with your friends and liking it and commenting. A lot of y'all had comments and questions about, well, you know, how do I do this or that? We got tweets. I even had a few phone calls that were kind of like, hey, this is good, but I never thought about playing in this way. And so that's what I'm going to show you a little bit more about. And I'm going to talk through it just to give you a little bit of backbone as to what I'm doing here on keys. And then if you're following us on Snapchat, that's Worship TT. Then I invite you to follow us, because later on this evening, I'm going to do a full recap, and I'm actually going to be showing you what my hands are doing sitting at piano. So you can't miss that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So again, follow us on Snapchat. You're going to download that on your device, and you will follow us. That's Worship TT. That's the same handle as our Twitter. Anyway, without further ado, let's just get this puppy going, shall we? Because you guys are waiting for this, and you've been so patient. So thanks for that. All right, so here we go. Talking about your pianist. As most of you know, a lot of pianists, I mean, I grew up playing piano, and I do both guitar and piano. For most of you, you've grown up with a pianist, and you know that when you stick a hymnal sheet music, they're just off and running, ready to go. A lot of pianists play by sight reading, and they read sheet music, and that's awesome. I think, just my opinion, I think the pianist is one of the, not the only, but one of the most experienced and largest assets to the worship team, because they know so much about not just music reading, but they also know about their fundamentals of music, and as well they know what's going on from a harmonic, rhythmic, and melodic standpoint. Where much of the time drummers tend to think just in one paradigm, which is time. Other drummers think in melody and so forth. And then you have guitar players that also just think maybe just in one context of chords, but maybe not so much in rhythm. The pianist, they think about all three. So the challenge for us as musicians is to learn how to adapt that same type of thinking. So if you are a drummer, learn to listen to chord changes and to the melody that drives the song. The same thing if you are a lead guitar player, you're always thinking about the melody, but why not also think about the chords and rhythm that you're playing against, because that tends to help in a lot of other areas. So I'm just here to share with you a little bit about what I do and how to approach that. Perry, what's up? Great friends here on Periscope. Great to see you guys. So let's move on here. I wrote this Pain in the Piano. Do you have a pain in the piano? Because most of you worship leaders are thinking, man, how can I get my classically trained pianist to play in a contemporary band, or just to play just this one thing? And normally, rightly so, pianists are using both right and left hands. So I talked a lot about that in the last Thursday broadcast and also the article, 6 Ways to Retrain Your Pianist. Today's article is the plate spinning pianist. So it's kind of the same thing, a little play on words. And you can find everything at worshipteamtraining.com and look for the first blog post. You'll see it right there. So again, pianists are faced with the task of doing everything. Now, I've grown up playing in worship bands with a lot of very high school pianists, and as great as they were at playing with sheet music, when you put a chord chart in front of them, it's like deer in the headlights. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And I worked with pianists, and I still do to this day, even our own pianists. I just sit down with them, spend time going over chords, spend time going over the basics, and they tend to get it. It just takes a little longer. But that's the one thing that I want to stress to all of you that are learning how to play by ear, or you're working with a pianist who needs to learn how to play by ear, is patience. Because the same amount of time that it takes for any musician to learn how to read music and to play music in that same way, it takes the fair amount of time to learn how to do that by ear. They just don't start, playing chords and hammering things out like a jazz pianist, or improvising. The improvising, the I word, as I would say it, it seems almost to be like a taboo word for most pianists, because, you'll very rarely you will find piano players that do both, that play by ear and play by sheet music. So if you're one of those, man, awesome, bless you. And if you have if you're a worship leader, you have that in your band, that's an awesome treasure to have. So how do we nurture that? Because a lot of pianists in worship bands are not cut that same way. So I'm just going to give you some things to think about to help improve your listening skills and what to do and how to make piano playing easier. So you can find our post. Here's the deal: is we're going to be using the song Aftermath by Hillsong. That's written by Jill Houston from 2010, and we thank Capitol Records for giving us the permission to do the song. I put the chart up also on worshipteamtraining.com under the same post, and we're in the key of D. I'm going to talk about what the song is doing in relation to what my hands and what the chords are doing. Now, before I get into that, I just want to give a little bit of a context to why this is happening. Again, I shared with this on the last cast that the right hand typically plays the melody, and the left hand is usually responsible for the bass or the lower registers. What we want to do, instead of broadening out like this, here's my sound, right? Instead of having everything far apart, the bass guitar is going to be using the left hand. The guitars are going to be using the right hand, so to speak. So if you can think in that context, that then leaves the pianist to wonder, well, then what do I do? Exactly. You're going to put the hands tight, chords in the middle, okay? Not all the time. This is just it's not a rule of thumb even. It's more of a, where's your band is the point I'm trying to make. Is your bass player playing on the higher bass registers or the lower ones? And the same thing with the guitar player. And then you may be thinking as a pianist, well, then how do I figure that out? How do I know that the bass player, okay, simply this, whatever song you're using, for our sake right now, we are using Aftermath. And also I got my Logic track loaded up with the awesome guide tracks, bundle tracks. That's right behind me, courtesy by guidetracks.co. Scott Hussey, thanks so much for the tracks here. Now, if I'm hearing what the bass guitar is doing, I want to try to match that on piano, and I want to do this in rehearsal. I don't want to do this in a service setting, but I want to get an idea of, are they playing this note up here, this bass lower end, or are they playing down here? Because wherever register that they're playing, I want to stay away from. I want to get out of the way. The same thing with the electric lead and other guitar players. And all you have to do as a pianist is think high and low. So if you see guitar players with their hands all the way up closest to the pickup or the playing area where they strum, they're playing in a higher register. If it's all the way out towards what we call the peg head, where the tuners are, if the hands are all the way far apart, they're playing in a lower register. So as a pianist, you do want to watch what other people are doing. I think the most gifted and most skilled pianists and musicians are the ones that actually use eye contact and they look around to see what's happening. You'll see this as a 101 type paradigm with jazz combos and even some orchestral settings. I mean, usually the guys are always they're watching a few or maybe all instruments. I know, like when I've done jazz combos, the trumpet player is always looking at what the drummer's doing. The drummer's watching the pianist and the bass player because they're all following each other. As a worship team, it needs to be similar. It doesn't mean that we have our eyes glued to each musician, but what it does mean is that we just use our eyes as a barometer check, say. So if I'm playing here, right there, there. So I'm also watching to see where the bass player has his hands. Again, if it's high, if it's low. Same thing with the guitar player. If it's high, if it's low. And I also want to find out, what strumming patterns that they're playing and listening back to what the bass player is doing. If the bass player has a lot of activity, the same thing with the guitar players. If they're strumming a lot, then as a pianist or as a keyboardist, I don't want to get in the way. What I don't want to do is, as nice as that may sound, it may sound nice if I'm the only pianist, keyboardist. I could see that. But if the guitar player is just, if they're strumming quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm doing the same thing, then it's just a static sound. So if they're strumming 1, 2, 3, 4, I may want to do this: 3 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now I know for a lot of pianists out there may be saying, wait a minute, but that's like way too easy. There must be something more to what you're doing. Well, that is the more and that is the less. The less is more factor is very, very huge as a pianist, but really for any musician, because if I'm playing guitar right here and I have a lot of keyboard activity, I'm going to do the same thing as a guitar player. I'm going to just hold back and, like as scripture says, in a different context, that is, let my words be few, let my notes be few. So the better that you can do that as a player and even as a singer, you're opening up a wider palette, if you will, of color, and you're stretching out the canvas even farther so that each person, each musician and singer can make their own brushstrokes of melody, harmony, and rhythm, okay? So that's something just to be aware of. So I encourage you that the next time when you're rehearsing with your band, don't even play. Just, I encourage you, maybe let the worship leader know what you're doing so that way they don't think you don't know the music or you didn't practice that week, right? But take a few seconds out, like a timeout, and just stop and just listen to what the band is doing. That's really all you need to do. It's not rocket science, and it's not, getting formulas and charts in front of you and play here, don't play there. You can do that later. That's fine. But what I'm encouraging you to do is just to use your ears first and think of that. So let's try that as an example. All right, I'm going to start the song, Aftermath. And this is by guidetracks.co.
2, 3, 4.
So listen to what's happening
verse 2, 3,
besides that cue.
4.
Okay, so far we have this. We just have a simple pad, not a lot moving on. Okay, and then the figure melody comes in. Okay, so as a pianist, there's two things involved. They're just doing chords. 2, 3, 4, 2. And what's happening is also, notice here that they're keeping track of the metronome. Not hard. 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 2. It's 2 bars, and if I think slow, it's 2 bars. It's really 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. And that's all there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you get the idea of what I'm trying to establish here is that the less is more really does work when you're in that setting. And the better that I'm listening to what's happening, the better response I'm going to have as a musician. So I'm not worried about what I play. In fact, I'm not even playing every single chord on the chart. I'm letting the rest of the band do it, and I'm trying to have a good backdrop of what's happening in the activity, again, so that I don't get in the way. I think one of the most critical things we do as a worship team is that we overplay, and we also play when it's not needed. Reason why? You have the church that's trying to follow you in worship. And the more and more that you get in the way instrumentally, the more and more that we cover up the vocal lines that they need to sing. And that's really all it is. It's not, again, rocket science. It's just learning how to work with what you have. So this is where I say there's 3 things that I recommend for pianists about the plate spinning pianist. Number 1, be low. In other words, think of the lowness, the most simplest form of the music. And also it's another great way to think about humility. You know, you want to let your words be few. You want to esteem others better than yourself, kind of thing. Number 2 is to go slow. Don't be so quick to plow forward, speed ahead. Just, use the time to listen, gauge what's happening in the vocal area, drums, bass, guitar, and have a good feel of what's happening. And then don't mow simply means that you're not ramrodding your music over everybody else, and that you're taking time to see what's happening. And you want to play in the holes, and that's what we call it. So in other words, like when there is a space, here, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and so I can let that note like that. And I'm not trying to do a lot. I'm just setting a pad, and you can see I'm not, and just playing along. I mean, you can do that. But even to that figure that you heard, the going on in the song in Aftermath, I would watch that too as a piano player. I would keep that as like a mezzo forte volume. I wouldn't overdo it, because some pianists I've seen try doing that, and it's like they really hammer it out. I would just make it really, really light like this. Where it's almost barely there. I mean, you can hear it, but it's not overpowering. So let's listen a little bit more to what the band is doing here in this track. And you hear the electric piano playing. The second half of the verse is where we are. And here's the E minor. And then there's that melody I was talking about. So you just want to make that felt, not so much heard. Here's the chorus. And I'm listening to what the other synthesizers are doing, other keyboards. Okay, so again, that better gives me an idea. That gives me a better idea of what's happening within the keyboards and also the other instruments. So as I'm playing, I have a good context of where the music direction is going. So that's always going to be helpful. Now something else too is like, one thing I was thinking of that you can do as a pianist and keyboard is you can make melodic lines. So like if we're playing on the verse, 2, 3, E minor, 2, and that's your B minor right there. So I would have, I'd pick out a melody, but I would make sure that it doesn't clash with what the vocalists are singing or any other instrument. But these are melodic lines. I talked about this in another episode. I'll probably like bring that down here. So that little melody figure. So that's a D, D flat, E natural. I'll bring it down here in the middle. E minor. So those are some simple things you can do during the verses. Here, I'll show you what I mean. And these are just parts that I'm playing. You can use it as like a call response kind of deal. And I'm just waiting. Play it again. Okay, so something like that, I want to just take very, very carefully. And I'm not trying to play a lot. So again, even if I just have a simple piano sound, let me just call that up for you real quick so you get a better idea of what I'm doing here. And I'm using both Logic and I'm also using Main Stage 3. So if that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. But Main Stage is a great program that you can use in combination with a Mac laptop. And all you need is a MIDI keyboard, and you can access thousands, millions of sounds. I encourage you to go to default sounds, and that's a letter D, FAULT.com, I believe. David Falsgraf runs that site, and if you just Google default sounds and find Main Stage, he's got a lot of great, awesome instruments that you can call up, just like what I'm doing right here. So I'm just giving you like a basic piano sound, all right, with no reverb, no delay, no nothing. Actually, there was some reverb, and there wasn't there. So I want to take that off real quick, so sorry about that. All right, good. So we have that. And so right here, all I'm doing, as I got my piano sound, let's say I want to play back to the track of Aftermath. Let's get that going again. Okay. We're on the chorus right here. The second line of the chorus. And I'm just adding in some fills. Now we're at the melody figure. So mainly, all I'm doing is I'm just trying to listen back. I'm not trying to overplay. So we get to that, if we get to that chorus again, then it's just real simple. Found in the aftermath. Then I can go into that melody. So I hope this kind of broadens your landscape and thinking about what more pianists and keyboardists can do. So you can see that what I'm accomplishing here is not the same as trying to be the one-man band. And that was the point of the last article, was I'm trying just to create a good sound context in relation to what the band is doing. And I want to have a good balance by using my ears, my eyes, making sure that everything is, I'm paying attention to what's happening. A lot of musicians, we tend to get into this drill down perspective where when we're playing a song, we tend to only think about what's happening here. And that's where I said in the article that music comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the black and white off the page. So the more and more that you do that and have that in your mind as you're making music, the better you're going to make music, because you're being more intentional and proactive to your sound, and also you're being careful with your band and you're esteeming them. So again, for pianists, develop your ear. Listen to lots of different music and just listen. Take time out during band rehearsal and just listen. Just sit there at the keyboard and listen to what's happening around. Guitar players do this all the time. I mean, like really good lead guitar players, they won't play for maybe, a minute and a half, and because they're listening to what the song is doing so they can respond. And that's just a very awesome, great illustration for all of us to follow. So do that even in, your rehearsal, and watch, where the guitar players are. Are their hands close together? Are they far apart? What's happening in the drums? Is it too much activity, or is it, if you play, is it just going to sound a lot of clutter? And you want to be very aware of what's happening there. And then listen to lots of music on your own, and just sit there at a keyboard, just put on your favorite MP3 and just learn how just to play one chord, There's not a lot that you have to do to propel music, because mainly what really drives music is the vocal section itself. So anyway, I hope that today this encouraged and inspired you to create more music, to look at it at a different context in relation to what the track is doing. That's kind of like my backup band right there. So thanks, Scott. And also just offering you, what you can do with things like Mainstage, different keyboards to make your sound big. Make the piano parts huge, make the keyboard parts more layered, and different things. But when you do those additions, you want to make sure that you subtract something else, which would be the excess playing. So that way it's not too overwhelming. It's not this wall of sound, but you want to keep things basic and simple so that everybody else can enjoy the music that you're playing with together. Anyway, I hope that helps. Love you guys. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Worship Team Training morning show and podcast. And then what we're going to do is come back next Tuesday. We have our brand new series. I can't wait. We've got some more stuff coming, and we also have more devotionals coming your way and more articles and videos. So you can check all that stuff out. Don't forget about the webinar also on the 15th. Check everything out at worshipteamtraining.com. Be sure also to subscribe and sign up for our Monday morning digest back at worshipteamtraining.com. Love you guys. Have a fantastic day, and see y'all very soon. Bye. Okay. Man. Check. Had more than last time. So there's still a few tricky spots to work through. And everything held up well.